Religious Epiphanies and Mystical Experience by Greg Wagner. First, we need to define what mystical experience actually is. Mystical experiences are generally classified as RSMEs, which stand for Religious, Spiritual, Mystical Experiences. These experiences differ from person to person based on their culture, language, and other factors. These experiences are particularly important because they can redefine a person's character, giving them a whole new purpose in life. These experiences can range from feeling the presence of a divine being to an AUB, or absolute unitary being, which is feeling like you're one with God or other supreme being. Clinical evidence suggests that RSMEs take place deep within the temporal lobe, and that many seizures within the temporal lobe can actually incite instances of RSMEs. Hold it. You mean to tell me that a person can go from this?
They tried to make me go to rehab. I said no, no, no.
To this?
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
All from having a seizure in the right place at the right time? That's crazy! Two French-Canadian fellows, Mario and Vincent, whose last names I'm not even going to attempt to butcher, decided to take on this endeavor. They designed an experiment they called Neurocorrelates of Mystical Experience in Carmelite Nuns. Previous work indicates that RSMEs are somehow linked to the temporal lobes. Additionally, a different study of nuns showed a connection between activity in the superior parietal lobe and altered states of body schema. The goal of this experiment was to discover the neurocorrelates of mystical experience. 15 nuns were recorded inside of a dark, soundproof room during mystical conditions, control conditions, and baseline conditions. For the mystical condition, the nuns were told to close their eyes and relive their most intense, important spiritual or mystical experience they've ever had. For the control condition, the nuns were told to think about their most intense connection they've ever had to another human being. This way, they weren't thinking about something mystical. The nuns practiced this activity for 2 weeks prior to the experiment to condition their minds for the experiment. Data was collected by means of functional magnetic resonance imaging, which measured the blood oxygen levels in the nuns' brains during the various conditions. The findings of the study were relatively impressive. Distinct differences between the mystical and baseline conditions are depicted in the pictures below. The most important data found in this study was finding activation patterns in the right middle temporal lobe. These activations were not found in previous brain studies of happiness, love, and other emotions described earlier. Thus, the authors hypothesized that this region of the brain is activated when a person enters some form of spiritual reality. 2 years later, Mario and Vincent published their work on a follow-up study. The authors realized that no one had ever performed experiments to measure EEG spectral power during a mystical experience, so they designed their own experiment. The main purpose of this experiment was to gather EEG data during a mystical experience, because background experiments showed distinct changes in spectral activity during blissful experiences and yoga meditations. In addition, the experiment had the secondary objective to measure connectivity throughout the brain during the mystical condition. The authors sampled a group of 14 nuns, preparing them in the same way that they sampled the nuns in their previous experiment. The nuns practiced control conditions, baseline conditions, and mystical conditions. Additionally, after the EEG readings were taken, the nuns took a quantitative survey to self-report on the data. Long story short, they strapped electrodes to the heads of Carmelite nuns during mystical experiences and measured the spectral power of their brains. Results. The self-reflection data and the EEG data both agree that the nuns did in fact achieve a mystical experience in a statistically significant manner. The EEG data was also statistically significant. The theta area was shown to have a steep increase, which has been linked in the past to pleasurable experiences. Gamma 1 power also increased over the right temporal and parietal regions. The EEG also measured connectivity between brain areas. The data indicates a statistically significant connection between theta activity in the left frontal and central areas. Additionally, The data shows a connection between alpha activity in the right frontal and right temporal regions. Overall, this experiment showed that multiple areas of the brain in both hemispheres are active during mystical experiences. More research needs to be conducted in order to figure out what's actually going on in the brain during mystical experiences.